Okay, there we go. Okay, so now let's talk about the other mechanism, and we'll do a really quick course on natural selection. Just really quickly go through this. So imagine we have a male and a female bear, and they each got a gene for short hair and a gene for long hair. So this is kind of a crude example of a Punnett square, but it gets the point across. So based on that, you're going to get a variety of bears. You're going to get some short-haired bears, some medium-haired bears, and some long-haired bears, okay? So natural selection. So what happens if an ice age comes along? So we get an ice age, and let's see here. Those guys don't fare too well, okay? So then over time, over several generations, or who knows, it could be one generation, eventually the bears that have the long-haired gene survive. So you've lost the gene for the short hair. Now what's amazing about how God programs the genome, a lot of times these are just suppressed now, and you'd be amazed how some of this can come back. But generally speaking, that's how natural selection works. It removes information. It doesn't create anything new. You're just shuffling information you already have, and you can't create out of that something. You can't grow a new organ because of natural selection. So when you do, for example, selective breeding, we know that the wolf kind has a lot of, that is very genetically robust. It doesn't have a big genetic load, doesn't have a lot of mutations compared to, for example, you go down the line, and it's well known among veterinarians that poodles, unfortunately, if you're a poodle lover, they're not real healthy dogs as far as they got a lot of mutations. They got a lot of harmful ones. So they're not as healthy, and so that's loss of information. So now that we understand natural selection, I want to get back to the debate, because Bill Nye threw this slide up and he said, no, there's no gorillas in this slide. And he just shows this slide. It's an illusion, because then he doesn't really say much about it other than there's no gorillas in here, as if this is somehow supposed to prove human evolution. So when I saw that slide, the first thing that came to my mind when I'm watching that debate was that slide. Okay, you know what those are? So, I really like number 9 here. Did anybody see Predator? Kind of a goofy movie. To me, that looks like Predator, if you saw that more up close. Well, what this really is, these are a bunch of dogs. They're all dog skulls. Does that prove that the dog evolved into the dog? Well, yeah, I guess it proves that. It doesn't prove anything about evolution. Those are all dogs. This is a slide that coming up that I'll get to that in a second. I wanted to, again, kind of touch on this whole natural selection. So evolutionists came up with the term microevolution. They need to get the word evolution in there. Microevolution, everybody agrees with. I do, Bill does, creation scientists do. That's small-scale change. That's where something like a lizard, you read in the newspaper about how a lizard evolved these different paths on his feet to adapt to his environment. Guess what? He's still a lizard. Okay, that's microevolution. Now, macroevolution is when they claim that the lizard, or something like a dinosaur, over time becomes a bird. That's macroevolution, or molecules demand evolution, and that's religion. That's not true. They have no evidence for that. No science, and we've talked some about that, but the scientific evidence for that is very lacking. So getting back to so here's something I saw. Study cast doubt on creationism. We're going to talk again about natural selection. So I've always liked this slide because, first of all, they're admitting that there was no doubt on creationism before, this report. Study cast doubt on creationism. Look at what they're claiming here. They noticed that the size of the St. Bernard dog over like 120 years, the size of his skull changed shape. Big deal. How is that evolution? They're claiming right there it can only be explained through evolution and natural selection. Then the very last line in the article says they have evolved purely through the selective considerations of breeders. It's selective. It's not even natural selection. It's breeders selecting traits. That's artificial selection. So that's not even microevolution in a kind of strict sense. So again, you see this stuff, and it's microevolution. The dog is still a dog.